Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman is a pioneering psychologist and science journalist who fundamentally reshaped our understanding of human potential. His groundbreaking work, Emotional Intelligence, presents a compelling case that our emotional quotient EQ is a greater predictor of success and happiness than traditional intelligence IQ. This book masterfully bridges the gap between neuroscience and daily life, revealing how the brain's emotional architecture influences everything from our relationships to our health. By illuminating the science behind our feelings and interactions, Goleman empowers you to enhance your personal and professional life, build healthier connections, and thrive in an increasingly complex world. Introduction. Why do some highly intelligent people fail in life, while others of modest ability achieve remarkable success? This paradox points to a different kind of intelligence, one rooted in our emotions. The famous marshmallow test at Stanford revealed its power, where 4-year-olds who could resist eating one marshmallow to get two later grew into more successful and well-adjusted adults. This ability to delay gratification is a cornerstone of emotional intelligence, a capacity that allows us to manage our impulses, understand our feelings, and navigate social complexities. At the heart of this is the dynamic between your emotional brain, the amygdala, which is the seat of passion and impulse, and your thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is the seat of rational planning. Sometimes, in a phenomenon known as a neural hijacking, your emotional brain can overwhelm your rational mind, leading you to act in ways you later regret. Emotional intelligence is the skill set that prevents this, built on 5 core domains: knowing your own emotions, managing those emotions, motivating yourself, recognizing emotions in others, and handling relationships effectively. Mastering this intelligence is not a luxury. It is a fundamental necessity for a fulfilling life. Part 1. The Emotional Brain. 1. What are emotions for? Your emotions are not random or inconvenient. They are a sophisticated evolutionary toolkit designed for survival. Each core feeling, from fear to love, served a crucial purpose in our ancestral past, prompting instantaneous, life-saving action. Consider the automatic leap aside at a sudden rustle in the bushes, a reaction driven by fear that is far quicker than any conscious thought. This is your emotional brain at work, prioritizing survival over deliberation. The universality of this system is proven by Paul Ekman's research, which showed that basic emotional expressions like anger, fear, and happiness are recognized across all human cultures, suggesting they are hardwired into our biology. Neurologically, this happens through 2 distinct pathways. The low road is a lightning-fast, subconscious pathway routed through the amygdala, perfect for emergencies. The high road is a slower, more deliberate pathway through the neocortex, allowing for thoughtful analysis. Your emotional repertoire, this entire range of automatic responses, was nature's way of equipping you to face the primordial world. Understanding that your feelings have a deep, functional origin is the first step toward working with them intelligently, rather than being ruled by them. This biological perspective reframes emotions not as weaknesses to be suppressed, but as ancient, powerful data streams carrying vital information about our environment and our needs. The key to modern emotional intelligence is learning to integrate the swift, intuitive power of the low road with the wise, strategic oversight of the high road, creating a harmonious partnership between feeling and thought that is perfectly adapted for navigating the complexities of contemporary life. 2. Anatomy of an emotional hijacking. An emotional hijacking occurs when your brain's alarm system, the amygdala, seizes control and launches a crisis response before your rational mind can even fully grasp what is happening. This amygdala hijack is a neural takeover, a biological holdover from a time when survival depended on split-second reactions to threats. The process follows two distinct neural pathways. The low road is a crude, ultra-fast pathway that sends a raw sensory signal directly from the thalamus to the amygdala, prompting an immediate, often inaccurate, reaction. Simultaneously, the high road sends the same signal on a slower, longer route through the cortex for detailed analysis, but the amygdala's impulse can already be underway. This is why you might snap in anger or freeze in fear and only realize it was an overreaction moments later. The amygdala's power comes from its role as a storehouse of emotional memory. It holds the imprint of past hurts and fears, and when a current situation even vaguely resembles a painful memory, it can trigger a hijacking based on this outdated data. This triggers the full-body fight or flight response, flooding you with adrenaline, speeding your heart, and preparing you for combat or escape. Understanding this anatomy is the first step to regaining control, allowing you to insert a crucial pause between the trigger and your reaction. By recognizing the physical and mental signs of a hijacking, the surge of heat, the racing thoughts, the tunnel vision, you can learn to label the process as it happens. This simple act of self-awareness engages the prefrontal cortex, your brain's executive center, and begins to dampen the amygdala's alarm, restoring a balance between your emotional impulses and your rational mind, and ultimately allowing you to choose a more thoughtful and effective response. Part 2. The nature of emotional intelligence. 3. When smart is dumb. A high IQ is no guarantee of success in life, a paradox that reveals the limits of pure academic intelligence. Research suggests that IQ contributes at most only 20% to life outcomes, leaving the vast majority determined by other factors, chief among them being emotional intelligence. This distinction is crucial. Academic intelligence is your raw cognitive processing power, while emotional intelligence is your ability to manage yourself and your relationships effectively. A key component is your explanatory style, the habitual way you explain setbacks to yourself. A pessimistic explanatory style interprets failures as permanent, pervasive, and personal. I always fail at everything. This mindset leads to helplessness and defeat. An optimistic style sees them as temporary, specific, and external. I failed this one task due to a specific circumstance. This fosters resilience and motivation. Emotional intelligence also enables you to access a flow state, that optimal experience of being completely absorbed and effortlessly focused in a challenging activity, where your emotions are positively channeled. Conversely, a lack of emotional self-awareness creates the unskilled and unaware phenomenon, where a person performs poorly but is incapable of accurately assessing their own incompetence. They are dumb not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack the insight to recognize and correct their own flaws. In the complex test of life, emotional intelligence is the ultimate measure of smart. 4. Know thyself. The cornerstone of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, the ability to recognize your own feelings as they occur. This is more than just feeling an emotion. It is the metacognitive skill of metamood, the capacity to step back and observe your own emotional state. Without this awareness, you are at the mercy of unconscious emotions, feelings that influence your thoughts and actions from the shadows without your knowledge. The act of bringing these hidden feelings into the light of consciousness is the first step toward mastery. A powerful neurological tool for this is the name it to tame it principle. When you experience a surge of anger or a wave of sadness, consciously labeling the emotion, such as silently saying to yourself, "This is anger," can help calm the amygdala's alarm and engage the rational prefrontal cortex, reducing the emotion's intensity and duration. Cultivating this emotional self-awareness acts as a crucial buffer against life's stresses. People who possess it are less likely to suffer from overwhelming emotional hijackings, experience lower levels of chronic anxiety and depression, and navigate challenges with greater resilience and clarity. Knowing your own emotional landscape is not self-indulgence. It is the essential foundation upon which all other emotional skills are built. This continuous process of internal monitoring allows you to understand your emotional triggers, recognize your habitual patterns of reaction, and ultimately make more conscious choices about how you respond to the world around you. It transforms the experience of being overwhelmed by feelings into one of observing and managing them with intention. 5. Passion slaves. When you cannot manage your emotional life, you become a slave to your passions, trapped in inner turmoil and unable to exercise self-control. This is particularly true with anger, where common beliefs about managing it are often counterproductive. The venting anger myth, the idea that expressing rage is cathartic, is dangerously incorrect. Research shows it actually reheats and amplifies angry feelings, reinforcing aggressive patterns instead of releasing them. The physiology of anger itself works against you. It floods your system with catecholamines, hormones that create a state of high arousal that can take hours to fully metabolize, meaning your body remains primed for conflict long after the initial trigger. This creates a dangerous anger escalation cycle, where each angry thought fuels the next, building momentum toward rage unless consciously interrupted. To break free, you must employ proven techniques. Cognitive reframing helps you challenge and reinterpret the thoughts feeding your anger. Actively cooling down through relaxation methods like deep breathing or engaging in distracting, non-aggressive activities gives your body the necessary time to metabolize the arousal chemicals and return to baseline. Mastering these skills transforms you from a slave of passion into the master of your emotions. This self-regulation extends beyond anger to all intense feelings. The ability to soothe yourself, to manage impulsive urges, and to persist through frustration is the true mark of emotional strength. It is not about suppressing emotions, but about channeling them wisely, ensuring your passions serve your long-term goals rather than derailing them. This mastery provides the stability required for healthy relationships, sound decision-making, and a resilient, purposeful life, freeing you from the tyranny of momentary impulses. 6. The master aptitude. Hope is the master aptitude of emotional intelligence, a powerful belief that you possess both the will and the way to achieve your goals. This is not blind positivity, but a pragmatic optimism rooted in your explanatory style, your habitual way of interpreting life's setbacks. An optimistic style views failures as temporary, specific to a situation, and changeable through effort, which fuels resilience and persistence. This stands in stark contrast to learned helplessness, where you believe challenges are permanent, pervasive, and personal, leading you to give up. Learned optimism is the alternative, a skill that can be cultivated to overcome this helplessness. This mindset is closely tied to self-efficacy, your deep-seated belief in your own capability to handle whatever comes your way and to influence events in your life. When you combine hope, optimism, and self-efficacy, you create the ideal psychological conditions for entering a flow state, that zone of optimal experience where you are fully absorbed, highly effective, and your emotions are positively aligned with the task at hand. This powerful combination enables you to face obstacles without being defeated by them, to maintain motivation over the long haul, and to consistently perform at your best, making hope the foundational skill upon which all other achievements are built. This hopeful outlook acts as a buffer against despair and apathy. It is the inner resource that fuels continuous effort, encourages creative problem solving, and transforms daunting long-term aspirations into a series of manageable steps, proving that the way we perceive our capacity to shape the future ultimately determines the future we create. 7. The roots of empathy. Empathy is not merely a social nicety. It is a biological capacity hardwired into your brain, allowing you to feel what another person is feeling. This profound connection is made possible by your mirror neuron system, a specialized network of brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you witness someone else perform that same action, creating an internal simulation of their experience. Empathy itself has two distinct facets. Effective empathy is the capacity to share and directly feel another's emotions, to experience their joy or sorrow alongside them. Cognitive empathy, often called theory of mind, is the ability to understand another person's perspective and mental state, to intellectually grasp what they might be thinking or why they are acting a certain way. Your prefrontal cortex, especially the right somatosensory cortex, plays a key role in this process, helping you simulate and make sense of others' internal states. A critical distinction lies in the outcome of this shared feeling. Empathic concern means you feel for the person, which motivates compassionate action and a desire to help. Personal distress, however, means you feel like the person, becoming so overwhelmed by their negative emotions that you retreat into self-focused anxiety to protect yourself. True emotional intelligence involves cultivating empathic concern, using your innate biological wiring to foster genuine connection and compassionate action. 8. The social arts. Mastering the social arts requires sophisticated emotional skills that go beyond basic interaction. It begins with your social radar, the ability to accurately read a room, interpret subtle social cues, and understand unspoken norms and the reactions of others. This foundational skill enables effective impression management, where you present yourself authentically yet strategically, navigating social situations with tact and building a positive reputation. Underlying smooth interaction creates a tangible sense of rapport and emotional connection. With this foundation, you can exercise social influence, using skills of persuasion, empathetic leadership, and constructive conflict management to guide groups, inspire collaboration, and build consensus. All of these components combine into overall interpersonal effectiveness, the practical capacity to communicate your needs clearly, listen with genuine attention, cooperate towards shared goals, and negotiate disagreements without damaging relationships. These are not innate talents, but learnable competencies that, when developed, form the essence of social intelligence, allowing you to build robust, supportive networks and thrive in any community or organization. This social adeptness is crucial in every domain of life, from maintaining intimate personal bonds to excelling in professional environments where teamwork and leadership are paramount. It involves a continuous process of social learning and adaptation, where you become more skilled at building trust, resolving misunderstandings before they escalate, and creating an atmosphere of mutual respect. By honing these social arts, you transform everyday interactions into opportunities for meaningful connection and collective achievement. Part 3. Emotional intelligence applied. 9. Intimate enemies. In close relationships, conflict is inevitable, but the way you manage it determines whether your partnership thrives or disintegrates. John Gottman's research identifies the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in relationships for toxic communication patterns that are highly predictive of divorce. The first horseman is criticism. This is not a simple complaint, but a global attack on your partner's character. Instead of saying "I was worried when you were late," criticism sounds like you are so selfish you never think about anyone else. The second and most dangerous horseman is contempt. This involves insults, mockery, and name-calling. It conveys disgust and superiority, such as rolling your eyes and saying, "You're an idiot." The third horseman is defensiveness. When attacked, you respond by making excuses, cross-complaining, or playing the innocent victim. You might say it's not my fault. You're the one who did so and so, refusing to take responsibility. The fourth horseman is stonewalling. This is when one partner completely withdraws, stops responding, and emotionally abandons the conversation. They may turn away, become silent, and give the silent treatment. When these patterns take over, they can trigger a state of physiological flooding, where your heart rate skyrockets and you are overwhelmed by adrenaline, making it impossible to think rationally or listen. The way a discussion begins, known as the startup, is crucial. A harsh startup filled with criticism almost guarantees a negative outcome. The key to breaking this cycle is the repair attempt, the ability to de-escalate tension with a timely joke, a touch, or a genuine apology, which acts as a pressure release valve. Ultimately, every couple builds a shared emotional history, and without conscious effort to interrupt these destructive cycles, negative interactions accumulate into deep-seated resentment, turning intimate partners into familiar enemies. 10. Managing with heart. The success of any organization depends not just on strategy and intellect, but on the emotional climate its leadership cultivates. This collective mood, whether it is one of trust and enthusiasm or fear and resentment, directly impacts everything from creativity and collaboration to employee retention and bottom-line results. At the core of shaping this climate is the leadership and empathy connection. A leader who can genuinely understand and respond to the emotions of their team members builds loyalty, fosters psychological safety, and unlocks higher performance. A critical practical skill for any leader is the art of criticism delivery. Effective feedback is specific, focuses on observable behavior rather than attacking character, and is delivered with respect to motivate change, not to punish. When a leader successfully manages the emotional environment, it can lead to an organizational flow state, where teams operate with seamless coordination, high energy, and a shared sense of purpose, achieving remarkable results. This is heavily influenced by emotional contagion, the powerful phenomenon where a leader's mood, whether optimistic and calm or anxious and irritable, spreads rapidly through the team, setting the entire emotional tone of the workplace. Managing with heart, therefore, is not a soft skill, but a strategic imperative for building resilient, adaptive, and high-achieving organizations. 11. Mind and medicine. Your emotional state is not separate from your physical health. It is a powerful driver of it, a connection firmly established by extensive scientific evidence. This mind-body connection reveals that your feelings directly influence your immune system, cardiovascular health, and hormonal balance. The most well-documented pathway is the stress disease link, where chronic stress and persistent negative emotions like anxiety and hostility flood your body with cortisol and other stress hormones. This chemical cascade suppresses your immune response, increases systemic inflammation, and damages your cardiovascular system, actively contributing to the onset and progression of a wide range of illnesses. One of the most compelling proofs of this link is the placebo effect, where a patient's belief in a treatment's efficacy can trigger measurable physiological changes where the mere expectation of healing can release endorphins, the body's natural painkillers, and other neurotransmitters that directly alter bodily states. This phenomenon demonstrates that the brain can orchestrate real biochemical shifts based on belief alone, providing undeniable evidence of the mind's direct power over the body's health. The field of psychoneuroimmunology is dedicated to mapping these intricate interactions between your thoughts, your nervous system, and your immune defenses. Research consistently shows a clear emotional styles and health correlation. where individuals with chronic patterns of pessimism, cynicism, and unmanaged anger face a significantly higher risk of disease and tend to recover more slowly from illness. This makes cultivating emotional well-being not just a pursuit of happiness, but a critical component of preventive medicine and a long, healthy life, as your mind can be your most powerful pharmacy or your most persistent toxin. Part 4. Windows of Opportunity. 12. The Family Crucible. The family is the first and most crucial emotional school, the crucible where a child's fundamental emotional intelligence is forged. In this school, parental attunement is the foundational lesson, the ability to accurately perceive, understand, and respond to a child's inner emotional world. This attunement paves the way for the most effective parenting approach, emotional coaching. This style sees a child's upset not as a nuisance to be dismissed, but as an opportunity for intimacy and teaching. It involves empathetically validating the child's feeling, helping them find words to label it, and then exploring constructive ways to handle it. In stark contrast, a home filled with chronic marital conflict acts as a toxic curriculum. When children are repeatedly exposed to parental hostility, it inflicts deep emotional scars, damaging their ability to concentrate, learn effectively, and regulate their own feelings. The impact of this early education is profound due to the timing of emotional lessons. A child's brain has specific windows of opportunity when it is most receptive to learning core emotional skills like impulse control and empathy. The lessons learned, or not learned, during these critical periods lay the neurological groundwork for emotional patterns that can last a lifetime. The family environment, therefore, is not just a backdrop for childhood, it is the active sculptor of a child's emotional brain. 13. Trauma and emotional relearning. Traumatic experiences do not simply fade with time. They can forge powerful emotional habits, automatic and deeply ingrained fear responses that operate outside conscious control. This occurs because the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, encodes traumatic memories with exceptional strength and vividness. Long after the actual danger has passed, a sight, sound, or smell associated with the trauma can trigger the amygdala, flooding you with the original terror and physiological arousal as if the event were happening again. However, the brain retains a crucial capacity for change. The process of unlearning fear involves creating new, safe experiences that directly counter the old traumatic associations. Through safe, gradual, and repeated exposure to trauma-related cues in a supportive context, your brain can slowly form new memories that signal safety, eventually overriding the original fear response. This delicate work must occur within a therapeutic window, a state of emotional arousal where you are engaged enough to process the memory, but not so overwhelmed that you become re-traumatized or shut down. This process requires patience and often professional guidance to navigate the amygdala's powerful alarms. While the journey is difficult, it can lead to post-traumatic growth, a phenomenon where individuals develop greater personal strength, a deeper appreciation for life, and more meaningful relationships, emerging from the crucible of trauma with heightened resilience and wisdom. 14. Temperament is not destiny. Every child is born with a distinct inborn temperament, a biological leaning that shapes their initial approach to the world. Some infants are naturally bold and exploratory, while others exhibit a pronounced inhibition to the unfamiliar, reacting to new people, places, or toys with caution, shyness, and measurable physiological arousal. However, this biological starting point is not a fixed destiny. A child's life is a continuous interaction between their biology and their experiences. While a timid temperament may set the stage for anxiety, it is the child's environment, especially their parents' responses, that writes the final script. There is strong evidence for the malleability of temperament, demonstrating that with patient, supportive parenting that provides gentle encouragement and carefully graduated exposure to new experiences, even highly inhibited children can learn to manage their fear and become more outgoing and confident. In this process, parents act like an orchestra conductor for their child's emotions. They do not suppress the innate instruments of temperament, but help their child learn to orchestrate them, teaching them how to modulate their reactions, find courage, and play the complex symphony of social and emotional life with greater skill and confidence. This understanding is liberating for both parents and individuals, as it means that core aspects of our emotional being, while influenced by genetics, remain open to learning and refinement throughout our lives, proving that our earliest predispositions are a starting point, not a life sentence. Part 5. Emotional Literacy. 15. The cost of emotional illiteracy. A rising tide of aggression, depression, and impulsivity among young people signals a pervasive deficit in emotional skills, with severe consequences for individuals and society. These emotional deficits are directly linked to a cascade of life problems, including academic failure, bullying, chronic anxiety, substance abuse, and an increased likelihood of criminal behavior. When children cannot name their feelings, manage their anger, or feel empathy, they are unequipped to navigate social and academic challenges. The economic cost of this illiteracy is staggering, manifesting in crime, diminished workplace productivity, and soaring healthcare expenses, representing a massive and preventable drain on societal resources. The solution lies in proactive intervention, and programs like the Self-Science curriculum demonstrate how emotional literacy can be taught directly. This curriculum helps children identify their emotions, understand the triggers, practice empathy, and develop conflict resolution skills. Teaching these abilities capitalizes on a critical window of opportunity in childhood, acting as a powerful and cost-effective form of preventative public health. By systematically equipping children with the vocabulary and tools for emotional self-regulation and interpersonal understanding, we can disrupt the cycle of pain and dysfunction. Investing in emotional literacy is not a soft educational luxury. It is an urgent necessity for cultivating a generation capable of healthy relationships, responsible citizenship, and personal well-being. 16. Schooling the emotions. The final, crucial step in cultivating emotional intelligence is to systematically teach it in our schools through dedicated emotional literacy curriculum models. These are not abstract ideas, but concrete programs like the Self-Science curriculum or the Resolving Conflict Creatively program, RCCP, which provides structured lesson plans where children learn to identify a wide range of feelings in themselves and others, understand what triggers these emotions, and develop a vocabulary for their inner world. This foundational work is essential for all other social interactions. A core component taught within these models is conflict resolution skills training. Students are given specific, step-by-step techniques for managing disagreements. They learn to use "I feel" statements instead of accusations, to listen actively to the other person's perspective, and to brainstorm solutions that meet both parties' needs. This transforms the playground or classroom from a battleground into a training ground for diplomacy, where a disagreement over a toy or a group project becomes a practical lesson in negotiation and empathy. To build self-discipline from within, these programs implement impulse control exercises. A classic example is a variation of the marshmallow test done in a classroom setting. Other activities might involve freeze games where they must stop an action immediately, or exercises in taking turns during a discussion. These are not just games. They are repeated workouts for the prefrontal cortex, strengthening a child's capacity to manage impulses that could otherwise lead to aggression or poor decisions. To foster deep social connection, Empathy-building activities are central. This goes beyond simply telling children to be nice. It involves structured role-playing where one child acts out a scenario while others identify the emotions being felt. Students might analyze stories or news events from multiple characters' viewpoints, or practice reading the emotional meaning in photographs of human faces. This trains the brain to automatically consider others' feelings, which is the bedrock of compassion and ethical behavior. The powerful outcome of this comprehensive education is the academic and emotional synergy. When a school integrates these lessons, the benefits are measurable. Students in these programs often show notable improvements in standardized test scores and overall academic achievement. This is not a coincidence. A child who is not preoccupied with social anxiety, who can manage the frustration of a difficult math problem, and who can work cooperatively in a study group, is a child who is free to learn. This synergy proves that emotional literacy does not take time away from academics. It creates the optimal psychological conditions for academic excellence to flourish. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. Your interaction matters, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.